Excellent. Now let's go ahead and let's add some KPIs to this. So we want this to really, kind of jump for the user, show them the data, call out numbers, and tell us how are we doing. So we're going to create two KPIs, one that's going to show us our revenue versus the prior year, and one that's going to show us our expenses versus the prior year. And it's going to tell us, if we're good or bad, if we're up or down with it. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and just get rid of this table. We don't want it anymore. We need that space for something else. We can do better than a table in Power BI. So let's get rid of it. A couple different ways you can do it. You can focus on it and hit the delete key on your keyboard, or I can use the ellipsis, the 3 dots, and I can choose to remove. Either way will get rid of that visual. It is gone. No chicken button, it's gone. And let's go ahead now and let's create a KPI. So a card is going to call out a single value and just tell us what a number is. A KPI allows us to actually compare that number to something else. So click anywhere in the white space of your canvas, and then let's create that visual from scratch. So I'm going to go to the visualizations pane. KPI is a little box and it has a green arrow going up and a red arrow going down. So just click on that KPI visual and then we'll go ahead and keep defining it. The first one I said is we want to compare our revenue to our prior year. So this one, it's a little weird when we define this. So let's start up here at the calendar section, and we're going to give it a trend axis first. So take in the calendar, find that year field. It's under fiscal and then year, and drag that over to the trend axis. So we're going to look at this whole visual over the course of a year. Now, what do I want to see? So we're going to put in the value and the target. So now what we're going to do is navigate down to the GL balances detail table, and we're going to go look for our measures. And this was all about revenue. So let's open that subfolder for revenue. And we're going to find our selected amounts. Revenue actual amount selected, put that in the value, and put the prior year in the target. Okay, so in the GL balances detail, count measures, revenue, let's add the revenue amount selected as the value and the prior year as the target. And now you see your KPI here. Again, I'm just going to resize it so I have the space. Now we want to clean this up. So let's go ahead and go to our formatting. Let's add a title. So I'm going to go to General and Title. I'm just going to call this Revenue versus Prior Year. And there it is. Couple other things we might want to do here. In the call out value, that's what they call this number that you're seeing. We could actually format that as well. Oops. So I'm going to go back to the visual section, and it's called call out value. And we're going to look at the units here. Right now it's just displaying the whole number. Let's change this to show millions, because this is really the number. We're just trying to get a good idea of what is our revenue this year, what is it compared to last year, and is it up or down based on the color of that icon, or the color is based on is it up or down. Now we can do the same thing, but this time we're going to do it with expenses. So I'm just going to actually, again, trying to save time, I'm going to do a copy paste of that visual. And then I'm just going to change my value and my target. I don't need to redefine the trend axis, but my value and my target, and those are going to be the expense field. So the expense actual amount selected and the expense actual amount selected prior year. So I'm just going to go in my GL balances detail to the expenses folder, and I'm going to change out the value and the target. The nice thing about this is I don't have to go back and reset the components like the display for the call out value. You also want to make sure that you update the title. Horrible if you're showing your expenses with a title that still says revenue. So go ahead and update your title to show expenses versus prior year. So that's going to be the visualizations pane in the format section under general and title. Going to look at this for my year-to-date 2019, period 12. See how we're doing for the full year there. Now we have a problem because our expenses show us that we're 12.69, but the goal is 11.58. So this is saying that that's a good thing. We're over what our goal was. But with expenses, that's actually incorrect, right? So we want to make sure that this is showing the right, like, is positive good or is positive bad, right? If you're over what the goal was, is it good or is it bad? So what we want to do here is we actually want to look at the formatting of our visual. So go ahead and select your visual, and we're going to go to the format section. And then you're going to go to the trend axis, and you're going to tell it here, is high good or bad? So I'm going to say low is good. I want to be under for my expenses. I want to be over for my revenue, but under for my expenses. So I just change that to say low is good. And now we've updated our card. Perfect. Okay, I'm just going to play with my layout just a little bit, and I'm going to put these on the top here. So I got my waterfall chart up here, and I'm going to put my stacked bar chart right next to it. Again, I use these little red lines to help me line things up, get things the same size. And then I'm going to give myself a little more room on the scatter chart because that's a lot of data. It's hard to analyze. I'm going to have it take up about half. And then we're going to build the one last visual. So once you get your screen kind of laid out there, then we'll step into the very last visual. The last visual we're going to build here on this report is going to be a trend chart. So what we want to do with our trend chart is we're going to go ahead and look at by month, how are we doing with our net income. So we're going to take our net income, look at it monthly, how are we doing?